Welcome to the January 2022 What's in Bloom at the Ruth Bancroft Garden. So every month we put together a list of plants that are in flower in that particular month, and we hand that out as a handout to visitors to the garden. And so we're going to go through that list and have a look at the plants on it. So starting out with Baileya multiradiata. So this is a desert daisy, and there are many, many daisies that come from all over the world, and a significant number of them in dry areas. So they're common plants in the springtime when the desert comes into bloom and so forth. And that's the case with Baileya multiradiata. We're kind of surprised here at the Ruth Bancroft Garden that it blooms for as long as it does. It just keeps on flowering and flowering and flowering, and we're more than happy to have it. The beautiful bright yellow flowers are a cheery sight, and right here at the entrance to the garden. Baileya multiradiata. Plants in the genus Arctostaphylos are commonly referred to as manzanitas. There is one particular species, Arctostaphylos manzanita, that has that name right in it, but all the plants in the genus are referred to as manzanitas, and these are in the Erica family, the Ericaceae, and California has more than any place else in the world. And so this is one called Arctostaphylos insularis. Insularis because it occurs on islands, the Channel Islands off the coast of Southern California. Like other manzanitas, it has little urn-shaped flowers that hang down in clusters, and in a pale pink shade. Manzanitas could be white flowered or pink flowered, but that's the only colors they come in. And so this one has beautiful, smooth, grayish bark, and then tough, leathery green leaves, and these little flower clusters this time of the year. Arctostaphylos insularis. We have a lot of aloes here at the Ruth Bancroft Garden, and quite a few of them bloom in the wintertime. It's not that they all do. There's no month that doesn't have some aloe or another that's in flower, but winter has more than its share. This one here is Aloe rubroviolacea, and it comes from Yemen on the Arabian Peninsula. So whereas most of the aloes come from Africa, there are some that occur to the north on the Arabian Peninsula, and others that occur to the east on the island of Madagascar. So this is one of the Arabian ones, and its name, rubroviolacea, refers to the violet tinge that the leaves take on in good sun. This time of the year, we're not having that much sun, and they're not all that violet, but they are in flower with these beautiful orangey red flowers. Aloe rubroviolacea. Sometimes we feature plants on What's in Bloom that are putting on a show via their fruits rather than their flowers, and that's the case here with the toyon. This is a California native plant. Its botanical name is Heteromeles arbutifolia, and it's in the rose family, and it puts on a wonderful show in the wintertime with all these red berries. Heteromeles arbutifolia. We have lots of plants from Australia here at the Ruth Bancroft Garden, but this is the only one we have in the genus Templetonia. This is a member of the pea family, and it just bursts into bloom in amazing profusion at this time of the year. Its flowers are an unusual color of red-orange, and they have a flag that goes up, and then a tongue-like part that comes out. Are very interesting flowers, and it's hard to believe that one bush can make this many flowers. This one here is already beginning to bloom. Some of our others haven't started yet, but it's a magnificent plant for a lot of red color in the wintertime. Templetonia retusa. The name of this shrub is Grevillea lavandulacea, and it's a cultivar called Penola. Now, the Grevilleas are in the Protea family, Proteaceae, and they come from Australia. There's really quite a lot of them. And this one is a modest-sized shrub with gray-green leaves, and its name, Grevillea lavandulacea, refers to the resemblance to a lavender. But it's nothing related to a lavender. The flowers look nothing like a lavender. It's just the aspect of the bush and the gray-green color of the little leaves. This one is notable for its flowers, which are little red curlicues. They're just beginning now, but it's in flower for quite a while in the next couple of months. Grevillea lavandulacea Penola. This small shrub is named Cantua volcanica, and it comes from Peru. It belongs to the phlox family, Polemoniaceae, and it has wonderfully textured little green leaves, but it's really pretty inconspicuous until it comes into flower at this time of the year and has these glorious purple flowers. It has a long flowering period during the winter months, and we really value it for the purple color it brings to the garden at this time of the year. Cantua volcanica. This wonderful aloe came to us from the Huntington Gardens in Southern California, and they gave it the cultivar name Tangerine. It's a hybrid, but it's a hybrid that does occur naturally in nature. Its two parents are Aloe ferox and Aloe arborescens, and those two occur together in a large swath of South Africa. And where they do occur together, hybrids are not uncommon. The one parent, Aloe ferox, has a branched inflorescence with a candelabra-like form, and you can see that here with the branching. And the other parent, Aloe arborescens, has single flowers with no branches at all. So we're happy that it acquired that branching character, because that really makes it spectacular when it comes into flower. Aloe ferox sometimes has bicolored racemes, where the buds are a darker color than the open flowers, and that trait came out here on this hybrid. So we see the orange of the buds and the light yellow-orange of the open flowers, and that really makes a nice contrast. Aloe Tangerine comes into flower generally in December, January, February, late December, January, February, and it's really starting to make a good show right now. Aloe Tangerine. This aloe is named Aloe mutabilis, and it comes from the northeastern part of South Africa near Johannesburg and Pretoria. It's closely related to Aloe arborescens, which is a more common species, but unlike that plant, it doesn't turn into a great big 100-headed shrub in time, and its flowers change color, so you can see that the buds are darker and the open flowers turn pale as they open, which arborescens does not do. It's also a hardier plant. It occurs at a pretty high elevation, and when we have a real cold snap, when it gets to 25 degrees or so, Aloe arborescens will have its flowers damaged, and this one does not, so we value it for that. Aloe mutabilis, although it isn't widely cultivated, deserves to be widely cultivated because it's a very dependable plant with beautiful flowers. Aloe mutabilis. This aloe is one of the most common aloes we have in cultivation in California, Aloe arborescens. It comes from South Africa and also neighboring Zimbabwe, and has a very large area of occurrence. We have different forms of it. There is a yellow form and red forms, and there are also orange and pink forms, but not all of these forms are found in California. This red flowered one is the most common kind that we have here in California. Our yellow one has been in flower now for over a month, and the red one's just starting. The first few flowers opening just now. But it is a wonderful source of color in the wintertime, and makes a big statement in the garden because it gets so big with so many heads in time. Aloe arborescens. This plant is a mangave. A mangave is a cross between a manfreda and an agave. So these are two close related groups of plants that come from Mexico and the United States. So originally they were considered totally separate. Mangave is a new thing because we didn't realize originally that you could cross a manfreda with an agave. But now that we realize you can, there are a lot of them that have been done in the last 20 years. And this is one that I did. So this is a cross between Agave parasana from northern Mexico and a manfreda hybrid that I had done earlier. So manfredas have softer, more flexible leaves, and sometimes they're even deciduous, whereas agaves are very rigid leaves. And this one's sort of in between. The leaves are flexible, but not as rigid as an agave, but not as soft as a manfreda either. Oftentimes when people are making a cross between a manfreda and agave, they are aiming for the purple spots of a manfreda on an agave-like plant. And in this case, It does have purple spots, but they're very subtle. Its attractiveness comes from its beautiful form. And when you hybridize a plant, you get to name it. And I took the suggestion from my friend Cricket Riley and named it Mangave Blue Fountain because of its fountain-like habit of growth. And here we see it in bloom, and so it's got maybe a less than spectacular inflorescence, but it's still wonderful to see it do its thing when it comes into flower. The flowering means that the rosette will die because all agaves and manfredas, the rosette is monocarpic. In other words, it comes into flower only once at the end of its life and then dies. However, it is making offsets around the base, so we'll get more of it that way. Mangave Blue Fountain. Here we have a relatively small stemless aloe named Aloe microstigma. This aloe comes from South Africa and a little bit in neighboring Namibia. It occurs in a lot of different places and looks different from place to place. This is the form from Grevillea in the interior of South Africa, and they get frost quite often in Grevillea, so it's probably tougher than most forms of Aloe microstigma. It's just starting to come into flower now, and its buds are a red-orange color, and then the flowers get a little bit of yellow in them as they open up. So just beginning, this flower stalk has some open flowers, this one not yet, but it'll be in flower for some time now. Aloe microstigma, the Grevillea form. This plant is Gasteria acinacifolia. Gasterias are close relatives of the aloes, and they come from South Africa. This particular one comes from right near the coast in the southern part of South Africa, oftentimes growing on sand dunes within sight of the ocean. Where it grows, it does not get cold at all, and so we're very pleased that it came through a severe freeze here at the Bancroft Garden when it got way below freezing and didn't even get harmed. So it's tougher than it needs to be. It's one of the larger gasterias, and the name acinacifolia means leaves like a scimitar because of the way that the leaves are sometimes curved like the blade of a scimitar. Its flowering time is mainly in the spring, but there's no month at which it has not flowered here at the Ruth Bancroft Garden, and here it is in beautiful flower right now. Gasteria acinacifolia. This aloe is Aloe ferox, and it's one of the more spectacular aloes from South Africa because it has this amazing inflorescence that branches like a candelabra with all these wands of flowers coming up and really makes a magnificent show. In South Africa, it's also famous for its medicinal characteristics. It has many of the same medicinal uses as aloe vera does. So it's used in skin creams and shampoos and lotions and balms and salves and things like that, good against sunburns and so forth. So there's a big industry in South Africa for the cosmetics trade. Here in California, we usually use aloe vera for those purposes, but we love to grow Aloe ferox for its magnificent flowers. It's a very stately architectural plant in itself, and then the flowers are like icing on the cake. It comes in many, many different colors, and here at the Bancroft Garden we have orange flowered ones and red flowered ones and white flowered ones and pink flowered ones, and some that change the color of the flower as they open. This one has not quite started to flower yet, but you can see from all these wands of flowers what a show it's going to make, and that'll be going on for the next couple of months. Aloe ferox. We have a monthly plant highlight on our website at the Ruth Bancroft Garden, and our highlight for January is Aloe ferox. So you might check that out and read more about this wonderful aloe and see some photos of the different color forms that it comes in. Chamelaucium is an Australian genus in the family Myrtaceae, the myrtle family. And this one here is a cultivar called Chamelaucium MB Violet, named for the violet color of its flowers. Chamelauciums are closely related to leptospermums, which are more commonly grown in California, and we value them for their fine textured leaves. They don't cast dense shade, and they're beautiful flowers. This one is just beginning to flower. There's some open flowers down in here, And then lots of buds, which are also quite attractive, little round red buds. And you can see there are lots of them on the plant that will be opening in the coming weeks. Chamelaucium MB Violet is not terribly common in cultivation, but it succeeds so well for us here at the garden. I think it's a plant that you might consider growing in your garden. Chamelaucium MB Violet. This plant is Agave striata, and it's a relatively common agave in northeastern Mexico, but with its needle leaves, it's really not the look that people generally associate with an agave. So a lot of people don't realize it is one, but it is, and it forms a good-sized clump in time, and the leaves could be blue-green like they are here, or sometimes they become pink-tinged or purple-tinged or red-tinged in a sunny position. And in Mexico, you see that quite often. Ours don't generally turn very much in the way of colors because we're not as hot as the more southerly locations in Mexico where it's found. But we love it for its green flowers. So green is not a common flower color for agaves or indeed for plants in general. And these wonderful tubular green flowers with the yellow pollen sticking out the end of them are quite a wonderful sight. There are other forms of it with more purplish flowers and more yellowish flowers, but ours are quite green. Agave striata. This plant is Deuterocohnia brevifolia. It comes from northern Argentina and across the border in southern Bolivia. So it's in the bromeliad family, and it has many, many, many very small heads that grow like a living boulder into a big mound. And it's in full flower now. Oddly enough, the flowers are green and almost the same color as the leaves, which is most unusual. Usually a plant wants to attract attention to its flowers so the pollinator will see them and come visit them, so it doesn't usually make a flower that's the same color as the leaves. But there's exceptions to every rule, and this plant has green leaves and green flowers. Its flowers are in little bunches and sort of protrude from between the leaves. It used to be in its own genus, Arborescens. And we thought of Arborescens and Deuterocohnia as being quite separate because Deuterocohnia has had long, wiry flower stalks with the flowers way up above the leaves. And in Arborescens, the leaves and the flowers are right together. And DNA evidence, however, has showed that they are so close to each other, they belong in the same genus. So now we call it Deuterocohnia brevifolia. In any case, it's a wonderful plant, as I said, like a living boulder. And these little sprays of green flowers come out at this time of the year. Deuterocohnia brevifolia. Echeverias belong to the stonecrop family, Crassulaceae, and they're very popular as garden subjects or potted plants all around the world. Most of the ones we grow here in cultivation come from Mexico, although they do extend down into South America as well. This is one that comes from the state of Oaxaca in southern Mexico, and it's called Echeveria pulvinata variety frigida. And that name frigida comes because before this had its own name as a variety, it was called by a cultivar name frosty. And that's because the hairs on the surface of the leaf are whitish and make it look like the plant was frosted. So when it was named as a variety, they adopted that idea and named it variety frigida. It doesn't mean it comes from a frigid place. It certainly does not. It's quite warm down in Oaxaca. There are a minority of the Echeverias that have fuzzy leaves, like the texture of a plush toy, and that's the case with this one here. Its beautiful orange flowers come out in clusters in the wintertime, and you can see it's in full flower now. Echeveria pulvinata variety frigida. This aloe is a hybrid I did many years ago, and its name is Aloe GW Miller. It's a hybrid between two species. One is Aloe zub from Sudan, and the other is Aloe squarosa from the island of Socotra in the Indian Ocean. It takes after Aloe squarosa in having curled back leaves with lots of spots on them, and it takes after Aloe zub in having yellow flowers and a larger rosette than Aloe squarosa has. And I think the combination came out quite wonderful. It's aloe developed right here at the Ruth Bancroft garden, but we hope to propagate it and distribute it widely. Aloe GW Miller. This little aloe is a hybrid with South African parentage. So the parents are Aloe Humilis, whose name means small, and that comes from south-central South Africa, and Aloe pictifolia, which is a little bit larger and more spotted. And foliage-wise, it really looks a lot more like Aloe Humilis. It's got these small flower stalks, only a few flowers open at a time, but a many-headed clump, and so lots of different flower stalks coming out at different places around the clump. It's been in flower now for some weeks and still has lots more flowers coming, so it really makes a nice display over a period of time in the winter months. Aloe Humilis ex pictifolia. This plant with the yellow flowers and the bright green leaves is Bulbine latifolia. It's a South African plant in the asphodel family, the same family as the aloes and the gasterias. The rosette does look rather aloe-like, except without any teeth along the edge, as you usually would see on an aloe leaf. The name latifolia means wide leaf, and indeed this one has very wide leaves compared to a lot of other bulbines. It's very large for a bulbine. And the yellow flowers are quite wonderful. It makes a lot of stalks over a long period of time. The flowers are like yellow cups, and on the inside the stamens are fuzzy, almost like little feather boas, and that's an unusual character both in the asphodel family and in the plant kingdom in general. Bulbine latifolia. That brings to a close our January edition of What's in Bloom at the Ruth Bancroft Garden. But I want to remind you, if you're in the area and can stop in at the garden, there's always lots of things to see that are not on the What's in Bloom list. For example, January and February are big months for the mesems, plants in the ice plant family. And many of those don't stay open all day long. They don't usually open until the afternoon. And they may not last all month, so they may not be on the What's in Bloom list. But you come to the garden and you get to see all kinds of things that aren't on the list, as well as the ones that are. We hope to see you here at the garden soon.